I build it, Hanok's gonna build that one over there at the same time. This is the Zoom F4 bag. We have boom poles. We brought 2 of the newer boom poles. These are K-Tex. They have MDCSCP and their number written on them. Boom poles are really simple. It's just a knob that you unscrew and it goes out or in. If any of you guys have used a boom pole, it doesn't really require that much knowledge. It just extends. And on top of it, this is a shotgun mic holder. It's just basically rubber bands. So you put the shotgun mic through it, so that acts as like a shock absorber. If any of you guys have used like a mic that has like a spider mount, I mean, once again, I'm sure you have because you've like worked with mics and stuff. But if any of you guys have like a mic at home, like a Blue Yeti or something, you can usually buy a thing that will hold your mic. And so if you like hit the desk or something, or if I shake the pole, you don't hear that shaking in that. That's what this is for. So I'm just gonna set this on the floor for now because we'll get to that at the very end. So when you open your bag, there's gonna be a lot of stuff in different pockets. Hanok's going through and pulling everything out right now. Another pocket in here has, let's see, these are the headphones. Another pocket's gonna have a similar bag to the headphones. Usually it's also an Audio-Technica bag that has 2 labs in it. It's not that it's 2 that an actor would wear, it's 1 transmitter, 1 receiver. Transmitter is what the actor wears, it's got a mute switch on it. Because obviously if the actor needs to go like use the bathroom or something, they don't want you listening while they're doing whatever they do in the bathroom. You know.
Yeah, I've had that happen.
So like you'll have actors doing a lot of weird things in the bathroom. Sometimes they're not going to the bathroom, but they don't want you listening. So like there's a mute switch so that they can mute themselves. Or if they're having a private conversation, like maybe they're embarrassed and they go to tell the director like, I'm not comfortable with the scene, but they don't want the sound mixer recording that, so they'll mute themselves. So always give the actor the one with the mute switch. The other one doesn't have a switch, it just says in out. Obviously, if it's an output, that means it can go to a device that records it. I don't know if you guys talk about inputs and outputs, but this would be the output for that. Inside there, you're going to have some cables. I don't know if you want to hold up the cables since they're a little bit small. The ones for the lab. So you have 2 cables. This one is the XLR to a mini jack. This is what you're going to use to go from the receiver to the mixer, and then you have your little lapel mic. We'll talk a little bit more about lapel mics once we get to that with Steve, just because like the labs can get very overwhelming, but I just want to show you guys what's in the kit now, so if for some reason you want to come to the ER practice or anything, you kind of know what to expect to be in each bag. It's going to be in this big bag held together by 1,000 different combinations of Velcro. There's also a wall plug in here. This uses 8 batteries, the boom uses 1, and then each lab uses 4. So you end up needing like at least 20 batteries. I know that number wasn't 20, but it's because this is going to start dying. You're going to need to change out 4 of the batteries. Your boom might start dying. So you're going to need to buy like 20 batteries before you rent these out. We have a bin of batteries with us today. These are all spare batteries that students have left behind. Like let's say you checked it out with like 3 of them and you guys wanted to practice and they brought 20 batteries and had 4 left over. Those 4 left over go into that bin. So a lot of those only have like 10% left. So try not to rely on the batteries that we have with us at the ER. They're all bad. And we don't want your mixer dying after 10 minutes and you come to the ER and like, what do I do? And it's like the answer is you go to Walmart. I would just say buy like a 64 pack from Walmart of the cheapest thing and use like one of those per semester. You should be fine. Because that gives you 3 shoot days about. Because I would say have at least 20 per day. And then hey, at the end you have some extra batteries for your Roku remote or you know your Apple TV or something. Because everything uses AA batteries for some reason. I don't know why nothing's rechargeable even though we're in 2024, right? That is wrapped kind of badly, actually. So I'm gonna unwrap this. Hanok has a nicer wrapped one. Can you hold that up so you can see how it should look? So you can see that they're usually wrapped pretty well. That one's got a few twists in it as well. So the Film 2s have been just learning these kits, so they're not very good at wrapping it yet. Don't worry, Steve's gonna show you how to wrap cable at some point, hopefully. Usually we bring you a bunch of cable. I'm just gonna leave this folded out. I'm not gonna wrap it super nicely just because we're gonna use it for demo purposes. Right now I'm just pushing out the memory. You just hold it in one hand and pull it, and then you can see it's kind of untwisting a bunch as I do that. XLR cables are gendered on each end. Ooh, scary word. That means there's a male and a female tip. The female tip has the holes, the male tip has the pins. It's obvious why. At the same time, if you look at your mixer or your boom, at the back of it, there's going to be an end. This is obviously a male end. A lot of people will like wrap up their cable nicely, loop it through their kit, and not realize they have it backwards because this is like going into there, and it's like you're actually plugged into an out, not an in. For this, you need to be plugged into the correct way. So if you look how Hanok has this open right now, this Velcro is all strapped up, but he can just pull the mixer out. It's actually incorrect. It's supposed to be strapped to these 2 things. For the purposes of demo, he's gonna use it pulled out. I'm gonna show you guys the Velcro on this real quick. When you use it, try to have its Velcro set up correctly. because the problem with being able to pull it out like that is the bottom of this has a zipper, so you guys can easily get to the batteries and the memory card, which is this hatch on the bottom. Here, I'll point it towards the camera so you can see that real quick. So you can see there's a battery sled and 2 memory card slots in there. Tell me when you're good. Good. So, but what if someone didn't zip this and then it's not Velcroed up here and then the mixer falls out the bottom and a $700 mixer just hit the floor and some group of students just lost a lot of money, right? So like, I don't want to make you guys replace a mixer. If you ever get it and it's like that, make sure you're holding on to it carefully when you pull it out. There's these 2 black Velcros on top that loop through these like gray loops on the side. Make sure those are on there. The reason that this is the safest way to do it is because you'll notice that the strap is actually on the shoulder strap. This is technically Velcroing it to this, not the rest of the bag. So as long as this is on me and those Velcros are there, the whole rest of the bag could fall away and the mixer is still attached to you. A lot easier for you to carry this thing around. You have a little window. I usually leave mine folded open. Most mixers will have it open because they want access to the knobs at any given time. It's up to you. Maybe you like to set it and forget it. If you're doing like a podcast, you'll set it and forget it. I know you guys probably have different goals and wants for how you're gonna shoot. Yeah, I know.
You gotta know about set it and forget it.
Yeah, to talk about things like I'm an old man, right? So take out the battery sled. It's 2-sided. Use 4 batteries on each side. Here, do you already load yours?
Nah.
No, okay, good.
I'll send these batteries for you.
All right, cool. Then we'll finish 4 of those. So obviously 8 batteries is a lot of batteries for one thing. I mean, I think the most batteries I have is like an Xbox controller nowadays, and that's 2. If any of you guys have a VR headset, you might know how annoying it is to have batteries die after 2 minutes. See you guys in VR chat. No, I'm kidding. See, I'm not that old. I play VR chat. I don't.
You don't play VR poker?
No. So he's got a gambling problem. Don't gamble. That's my advice. Unless you're winning, I don't know.
Yeah.
Don't take my advice, right? So yeah, it's got 8 batteries. It only goes in one way. I don't know how. People force it in the wrong way. You'll see that there's like this plastic line on one side of it, and that this is off to the left or off to the right, depending on where you're holding it. If you put it in the other way, it'll get almost there and then it gets stuck, and we have to get pliers and yank it out. So please do not force things. As it is with camera, it is with sound, it's with anything in any complex industry. If it doesn't just fall in like easily on its own, you're probably putting it in backwards. This is where all your footage is stored. I think this is kind of obvious stuff, but I have to go through it just in case, because people be like, hey, we recorded that whole day and we don't have an SD card. Please check there's an SD card in your mixer. Sometimes a student will forget to give it back after they drop their footage, and then like you go to record and you're like, well, the light was red. It's like, yeah, and there's a little flashing SD card symbol and you didn't realize that that's what that meant. So please make sure you have a card, format your card, put it into a computer, format it on the mixer, whatever you need to do.
And most likely when you turn it on, it'll say no card, the first thing it'll say.
Yeah, it'll say no card, but if you're not looking, then, and it happens, right? Like, it's no one's fault. If you're in film too, it's the first time you use a mixer and you didn't realize it said no card. Like, it's your first time. That's why we do 5 classes before you make like any production that you should be spending money on. But obviously I don't want you guys to spend hours shooting or doing an assignment for Steve and then you're like, so we have to redo it. My crew's gonna come back tomorrow and you have to write him an email being like, we didn't realize our card was bad. So just make sure your card's good, make sure to format it, make sure you have enough batteries. So the input side has channels 1 through 4 here. It's big XLR ports, so you guys can look at it here. I'll show you guys on the bag. This pocket is meant for you to be able to get quick access. You can see you have ports here. These are your outputs. If you flip the bag around, you have a very similar big flap. And you can see, like I said, it's 1,000 different pieces of Velcro. This is all to make sure that you can organize stuff the way you want, however you want to organize your cables on your body. Same thing. There's ports over here. The side with the inputs is the female side. But just the easiest thing to remember is just to look at it, and it's labeled. So like the side with the headphones is obviously where you listen, not where you plug in a mic. So that's the side where the mics go. You're good. So I'm just gonna plug a cable into that side of that. I'm gonna strap up this bag nicely, just so, because I'm gonna display it as if it was on me, and I'm just gonna kind of display it as if you just had a mixer on a table. Because this is kind of what you'd use if you're doing like a podcast stuff. You're just gonna have a mixer on a table, cable plugged into it, right? So this bag, with its 10,000 Velcros, if you have it all the way that, at least most people use it. You'll see there's always like these sets of blue tabs together. Like there's blue tabs. The blue tabs line up on this side. Like right now, the way I have it, if I look in there, plug number 1 for input 1 is right there. It's a little hard to see. That's why also over there. But now that this is all Velcroed up like this, I can just throw it over my shoulder. Why are you throwing over your shoulder? I'm kidding. There's also on the bottom of this a 1/4-20 hole for, and I'm also showing you guys this stuff just in case you want to like use something like this for a personal setup. A lot of people like to do podcasting, so I think it's a good way to learn audio. You can just put this onto like a stand or like a tripod, so when you put a camera, you just screw it into that and you can have it next to you with your knobs, those kinds of things. So I'm gonna take this cable that I've now like made into a mess, because inevitably you guys will make a mess out of your cables on set, because we're gonna have to rewrap it at the end anyways. I'm gonna find my male and female side. Sorry, I'm just gonna pull some of this memory out of it. So this is the side that's gonna go into the boom. Like I said, male, female. Can I hold that in for me? Really gotta push memory out of this one because this one's a little bit tangled. As you can see, I'm getting like these knots. And then this is the side that's gonna go in the mixer, so hold on to that for now. We're gonna come back to that. Let me plug it into channel 1.
Always push it until you hear a click.
Yeah, so let me see if you guys can hear it. Yeah, so, because sometimes you won't hear anything, but it feels tight. Probably just need to push it a tiny little bit more, because what'll happen then is sometimes you'll even hear audio. You'll notice if you like shake the bag, there's like a lot of little noises. It's just that cable's about to pop out. So then you have, obviously, your long cable. You're gonna get your boom pull, and hang on, I'll take that from you now. Let me put the cable on the seat. Kind of being a little bit messy with the cable, but that's just because, like I said, we're gonna have to rewrap it anyways. So you're gonna take your boom pull. This just slides through these rubber bands in like this kind of cross pattern. You guys want to look at the way I put that through there? I'm going to do that real quick with them as well. You can see, very simple. But now, like, if I shake it, the boom's wobbling around. But this is going to be a lot less noise when I'm moving around than if it was solid mounted. Because like even just my fingers going like that, you hear it on the mic. You shouldn't with these rubber bands. The more expensive blimps and stuff like that, it starts to get a lot better. Like right now, if I were to go like that, you'd still hear it. But obviously, like just the little movements like this, it helps a lot when you're inside. I don't know if any of you guys don't too yet, but you know, just going like this from one person to the other, sometimes you can hear my hands moving it. You want to eliminate as much of that as possible. And like I said, I don't know how far Steve got into showing you guys like things for microphones. Nothing at all.
One quick tip with the boom: always lengthen the side closest to the mic first.
Yeah, start with the furthest distance. Here, I'm gonna move this chair out the way now so you guys can see a little bit more of the cable.
Just because of physics, the furthest side are the lightest side.
Yeah, so because you want the heaviest part in your hands. If you guys start to extend from the closest side, sometimes you'll see even on like film 2 sets, someone's like kind of shaking because they have like all of the weight way at one end. You're basically making a giant pendulum. I don't know if any of you guys like physics, but the further out you put a pendulum, the more heavy it gets. So you can take your cable. Now you're going to actually want to wrap it correctly. There is a lot of memory in this cable, so I hope I can do it properly. Okay, I'm going to push the memory out of this, but Jesus. Because you can see as I push them around, like these little tangles are starting to form more and more down. You can kind of push it out with your fingers, but you guys will practice more with that later. Okay, Jesus Christ, we need to watch these film 2s wrap their cable in.
So that could have been in the night class.
It probably was the night class. We had a night class the other day, and they have had a harder time with things like this. So once you get your cable wrapped up, nicer than this, I hope, just because I want to be quick for you guys. You can obviously just like Velcro it and hang it from yourself. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give myself a few loops for my boom. So let's say that much should be good. I'm going to take this and then make it easier for yourselves. There's a little pocket on here. And you guys don't have to carry around a loop of cable. Yay. Because I see people with this thing like up on their shoulder. It's a bag. You're allowed to use the bag as a bag. So you're going to take your boom, plug this into the back of the mic. I don't know if you want to plug yours into the back of the mic.
I got you.
So for Henoch's kind of setup, usually you'd have like a boom pole holder or something. For mine, it's assuming that you're like field mixing. Twist the whole pole in your hand to wrap the cable around it. I'm kind of doing it a little bit messy because it's short, just to show you guys. You don't have to have this many loops. You'll notice that now there's all this pressure on this, it's bending this way. What you want to do is make sure you're giving things slack. So put this like flat, tighten these two little knobs, and give yourselves like maybe that much. Because when this is pulling, you're also going to hear that. Because field mixing is obviously a lot of like movement and pulling and tugging. So you'll see like I did like a tighter loop, and now I'm giving myself big loose loops. So now I have like enough loop here that like obviously I can move around without this like, I'm not gonna like step all the way onto this. And if this was too much, I could always loop a few more around the handle, you know, do whatever you need to do. Find a way to keep this compact but safe, because you don't want this dragging on the floor behind you, because then it wraps around Henoch's leg and I start walking and then the boom crashes to the floor as the rest of me flies like a, you know, some ragdoll from a video game. So that's how you hook up the boom. Let's say you have your headphones at 80%. You're giving yourself a buffer for like what you're hearing, because in post you're probably not going to have everything maxed out. Like even though on here I'm -6 decibels, but like if you're in a conversation in a house in a regular scene, the loudest thing is not people normally just talking like normal. So I like to put it down at 80, so I'm pulling down a little bit, because in post I'm going to pull down a bit. But you're also not going to listen to other devices. Like let's say you know you only want one boom, but I've seen students where they have 4 booms because they're doing like a weird interview setup, but you only need this one for this shot. You can just disable boom 2, 3, and 4, only listen to this, only record this. But just know if you're not hearing it, it's probably not being recorded, because people are like, oh, well, I muted number 2 because it was just really noisy and I only wanted to worry about this. It's like, you also did not record number 2 when you did that. And speaking of the bad batteries, this thing just died because, like I said, these batteries are old. Each fader represents one of these knobs. So as I turn this, you'll see the trim on the actual like unit is changing. And then let me change that. Cool. So I'm gonna put the faders at 0. Factory resetting the here, Steve, can you keep talking for a second?
Yes.
Yeah, it's playing right now.
Okay, cool.
You
So-
heard it before?
No, I didn't hear it before.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so sometimes you'll get the kit from someone else and they've set the settings really weird, and then you're like, I am not hearing anything, even though I'm enabling, disabling track, doing all that. You can actually just factory reset the mixer. It'll by default turn everything off phantom and just enable channel 1 with fader, and then you just need to use the knob. If for some reason you forget that, or it's confusing, or you can't find the factory reset, you can just ask one of us at the equipment room. It's literally just, you just open the settings menu and it's the very last option. But we'll show you how to do that. Say again?
I hear the server.
Yeah, the server, I mean, if I go like that, I'm sure you can hear it quite a lot, yeah. Each fader represents one of these knobs. So as I turn this, you'll see the trim on the actual like unit is changing. And then, let me change that. Cool. So I'm gonna put the faders at 0. So if you flip through your menus, eventually you can get to this thing that is levels. And you can see that as I'm turning this, here, we want to talk for a second?
Hi.
So as he talks, you can see that down at the bottom, there's like levels moving. This is not color screen, it's black and white. If you're all the way to the left, that's going to be red, all the way to the right is green. The one indication you have is here, be kind of loud for a second. See this right here? So start talking.
Hello, hello.
So you'll see those right there. So obviously if that's in the red, you're peaking. You want to be as close to the red as possible without peaking all the way.
Actually, close to yellow, never red.
Well, yeah, so yellow is the closest you want to be to red, because it goes green, yellow, red. Once you're in the red, that means you're already over the limit. So if you can keep it like just tapping yellow the whole time someone's talking on that little mixer, like indicator.
What about green?
Well, so the thing is, keeping it green the whole time, you're safe, but remember the preamps in this are kind of bad. So if you keep it just barely tapping the yellow, you're using the full range that this preamp has to offer. And if I'm right here, this is what a lot of people do. I'm pointing at his skull, not his mouth, not his chest. A lot of people say the solar plexus, some people like this bubble right in front of their mouth. As long as like somewhere in this dome, it's going to depend on the mixer, what kind of sound you want. When you're pointing right here, it's going to be a little bit more bassy. A lot of people call it more chesty. Right here's a little bit more higher pitch. For a lot of like women, they'll point a little bit higher. For men, they'll point a little lower. I like to just point at the chest no matter what. So it says trim across the top of the screen on each channel. If you were to press this knob, you can go to the fader, but that's why we're saying you can leave these all, you'll see they're all set to the same amount. That's just the default of 0. You can just leave that on 0 and assume you're gonna do all your mixing in post for the post mix and just worry about your trim. These will all assign to their knob. So if you see the little animation, will move with the knob on that first one, because that's me changing the levels. And as I change it, this mic is getting louder or quieter. So I'm gonna you guys might need to like lean in a little bit close. You see how it says trim across the top? You have to get really close so it's kind of small. See how it says trim right there?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so as I change this, you see how the levels go up or they go down? That's the level of what's coming into the mic being adjusted. So see that right there? It's called a pop filter. For these, you're usually not up against it giving those plosives. A plosive is when you go like pa, or like you're making sounds, or like S's will do the little like s. When you're like
sibilants.
Yeah, you have sibilants from that. When you're right up against a mic, those kinds of things can be really annoying. Like, have you ever listened to like a webinar or something? You're like, every time he says something with a P, I feel like you're like, what is that? Like, that's a lot of that popping. That's what a plosive is. So usually that's what these are for. With a boom, you don't usually have as much as that, but this is still good for like smaller amounts of wind, just smaller things as you're booming above them. I typically just leave it on for just in case. I've had boom operators tell me they don't want it on because it kind of muffles a little bit. They're being big babies, but I'm a camera guy, so that's my opinion, right? They're probably right, you know? But this is for like, if you're outside and it's like really windy, geez, we might need to brush this. Some people literally have like combs and brushes for these things. It's called a dead cat. Not technically. What do they call it? A windscreen? Yeah. So the actual name is a windscreen. A lot of people call it a dead cat because it looks like a raccoon or a cat tail, like when like they like freak out and their tail puffs up. You just slide that over that. It's a little bit annoying to get all the way on there, but this.
All of that.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Usually, be taking off his headphones. All of this now like puffy, cushy material is now stopping wind from passing through the muff. So hopefully whatever he's pointing at is all you're hearing, not, you know, the massive gust of wind as Hurricane, what was it, Irene? Yeah. Milton? As Milton approaches and you're trying to shoot your Film 2 projects, it's very windy outside. You're gonna need this. And also we're in Miami where it rains every 12 seconds and it's storming constantly. And once again, we all shoot by the lake. I mean, half of my projects in this entire program have been by that lake. It is windy as